will have this many cookies. And then cookie sales go up and cookie sales go down. Certain brands are very popular, certain brands are not so popular. And the Magic Elves now change what they're producing based on what people actually wanted. Not based on how much money they can make using palm oil and child labor. Grocery orders more cookies, and I get the cookies I actually want. And if this were happening, I would still get my lovely chocolate fudgy EO fudge cookies. But I don't, because they just don't make enough money producing them. And so, yeah.
Well, let's say in the past when he said like the ingredients are too expensive, I mean, did that issue just go away here, or like?
See, here's the thing about profit. Profit is really interesting. I don't know if anyone here has worked retail, but the retail, I think the average retail market is about, what, 40 to 50%? That if I run a store just for handling a product, I will increase the price 50%. For nothing. If I run an internet store, and this is why the internet makes so much money for a lot of people, if I run an internet ordering store, and I order, circuit boards, and I'm selling these circuit boards, I have basically no overhead. I've got a warehouse where I keep the stuff, and 3 guys who work the graveyard to package up the circuit boards I'm sending out to people. But I'm charging you 50% more than I paid for it, and all that is bank. And so when you eliminate profit, right, when you eliminate that skimming off the top, everything gets cheaper. Everything. I don't know, how much you pay for that shirt?
Like $30.
$30. You think it costs $30 to make?
No.
You think it costs $10 to make?
$5.
Not even $5. Where'd the rest of that go? So you know what? Yeah. So real non-child labor chocolate, a little more pricey. Palm oil non-palm oil that won't give you coronary disease, maybe a little more pricey. Overall, once you take out that skimming off the top that profit is, everything gets cheaper. Not so much an issue anymore. Okay. And so the other thing to note is that a lot of the times we go looking for things that are cheap, like palm oil, which of course we get from the rainforest and thus deforest in order to grow. We do that because it's really cheap. But it's not cheap in any other way. It's not cheap in terms of environmental impact. It's not cheap because you have to ship it up from Brazil and burn all that gasoline in these giant tankers. It's not cheap in any way except we can pay people very little money to chop down their forests and grow this for us. And so when you eliminate that profit motive, now we start looking for maybe local products that will serve the same purpose, that we can use local labor to produce. And in every other way is cheaper, less environmental impact, less gasoline burn, less total handling it. But right now, isn't so cheap because we got to pay white people in Whatcom County to grow it, and they get paid a lot. Versus some Brazilian guys in the rainforest, we pay $1 a day. So that's sort of where once you've taken that profit out of the mix, not only does that skimming stop, prices come down, but we start looking for things that are actually better for us in every way, rather than just cheapest for us.
So you're saying the ingredients would never become that expensive in this system? I mean, technically.
Let's think of expensive in a different way.
Okay.
Let's think of expensive in terms of environmental impact, labor impact, impact on local economies, and not just in terms of money. So yeah, they wouldn't be nearly as expensive as palm oil.
And so those new concerns are kind of implemented?
Right.
Okay.
This actually, so we jump here, we talk about citizen ownership, right? And this is in one slide, I'll get exactly that concern, right? Because we get really scared about the issue of property. No, I don't want the commies coming to steal all my private property. I love this crowd because I know the answer is going to almost certainly be no. Does anyone here own 2 houses? Does anyone here own a car they don't drive? Really? Like never drive?
Yeah, my husband drives it.
No, sorry. So your family unit. Do you own a car that your family doesn't? Oh, okay, I was going to say, whoa. Do anyone here own a piece of land they don't use? That maybe they rent out to someone to grow stuff on? Now, what y'all have is called personal property, because it's yours personally. That shirt you have, your backpack, your jacket, these are yours. No one would dispute that. You are clearly wearing it, you are clearly using it, as is your house and your car and your husband's car, because you use them every day. Clearly, I can see that because you're using it, it is yours. On the other hand, when you have a house that you rent out because you never live in it, that's not really yours anymore, right? I rent an apartment, and it's mine. I painted it, I decorated it, I have very nice things in it. It's my home. But it's somebody else's property. Someone else gets to say it's theirs because they have their name on a piece of paper. That's private property. Private property comes in when it's something that you own because the piece of paper says but you don't ever use. In any other sense of the word, it's not yours. things that you don't use really aren't yours. And no one in this room has any private property. And so when you have someone from the Cato Institute saying, good Lord, we need to protect private property rights in America, they are not talking to you, because you will never have private property. They are talking to the 5 white guys in New York who own everything. And you have to rent from. Who are your rents, by the way? Like rents an apartment? Yeah, you don't own your apartment, right? All that money ends up in the hands of some guy who's making a lot of money off you just because he owns a piece of land. Right? That's private property. You don't need to worry about that. Right? And so when we talk about citizen ownership, let's be clear what it's not. First, it's not communism. Right? Actually, I won a bet last time because I guarantee that someone would say, isn't this communism? It is not communism. Because communism was about what we call collectives, which is kind of like private ownership instead of 5 white guys in New York owning everything, the workers in the factory would own it, which is good. It's kind of like the co-op. It's good in the sense that it's better for those people, but it preserves the same antagonism between producers and consumers. That the 50 floor workers in a factory that own that factory now are still trying to maximize profit. They're still trying to do what's best for them. They're not doing what's best for me. And so this was ultimately the fundamental failure of the Soviet state, that they had no incentive. That the workers in these collectives, they got paid whatever, no matter what happened. If I went to work and went to sleep, they would still pay me. And so I had no incentive to produce for anyone, because I was fine. And they'd send out all these plans, produce 100 rockets, produce more water, produce more whatever. And I had no reason to fulfill those requests. And a lot of those requests were totally insane because I didn't have the materials to fulfill those requests. And so we're not talking about a system where all that power, all those property powers, put into the hands of a few workers who are now under obligation only to themselves rather than the good of society. And we're not talking about state ownership because, frankly, does anyone here trust the government to administer anything well at this point? Really?
Yeah, I worked for a housing authority for 26 years, and they did a very fine job in providing affordable housing to citizens of Western County.
Good point. Ever travel Amtrak?
Amtrak was essentially non-profitable, and the railroads allowed the government to take it over because passenger service doesn't pay, so the government is doing just as good a job as could have been done considering the non-profitability of rail traffic.
Amtrak's a really interesting case because I was looking at going to Lollapalooza. I'll admit it. That's a great lineup, by the way. If anyone can make it out there, good for you. I can't afford it. Right? And I said, you know what? I really don't want to fly because that's really expensive. Let's take a train. And I said, ooh, look. Train should be cheap. It's a 2-day trip. To get a sleeper, which because you don't want to sleep next to someone on the train, it would cost me $1,000. I don't trust the government to run anything. And you know what? There's probably some good things. There's probably some things that do really well. But let me add this proviso. I don't trust the federal government to do anything. I definitely don't trust elected politicians to do anything. I don't expect when I call my congressman or senator, I don't say, excuse me, Mrs. Cantwell, can you help me? The answer will be no. And I definitely don't trust the Senate or the House to effectively manage the things that I need to have food, clothing, health care, and education. I just don't. That's just me. I don't know if you guys have more faith in your elected officials, but they have kind of a bad track record. I trust myself. I trust the people I know. I trust all of y'all a lot more than I do a politician. And so when we're talking about citizen ownership, let's bring it back to us, actual citizens. Because the basic tenet of democracy is that the people who are affected by a decision should have a say in that decision. And the economy is big. It's bigger than the government. It's bigger than anything. We have no say in it. Yeah?
Well, I actually think that the federal government, the state governments, the local governments manage a lot of concerns very, very well. I think, though, that you hit upon a problem, which is that a lot of government officials are bought by special interests. For example, the healthcare industry is a very good example of that. That, as Michael Moore points out in his movie Sicko, with the little price tags on the different, people in Congress, the Senate, even the President, that a lot of the elected officials are beholden to special interests. And what you were saying is bring these things back to the citizens. Well, that's what government's supposed to be about. Citizens are supposed to have a stake in government. Government is supposed to be